Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a new Planeswalker duo that has entered Puzzle Quest. Will, Scholar of Frost, and Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. So, let's get into them. To get things started, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Octagon for sending me this duo so that I could make this video for you all on these Planeswalkers. So thank you very much. Now, Will and Rowan are going to be Will and Rowan 2. And so this is going to be our second set of Will and Rowans that can tag with each other to swap between the two walkers. They are a red-blue Planeswalker combination, and they are built around the new Enhanced Gems mechanic. Now, Will's side, so Will, Scholar of Frost, while this is the active Planeswalker, you get the three abilities of Chill Down, Frozen Assets, and Breaking the Ice. The first ability, Chill Down, is going to cost 6 loyalty and make it so that target creature's base power and toughness becomes 0/3 until the beginning of your next turn. If you don't have one on the battlefield already, create a support named Twins of Magic. Now, even if your opponent does not have a creature down on the battlefield, you can still use the Twins of Magic ability to go ahead and flip Will. Now, the Twins of Magic token is an emblem with 3 shields. It's blue and red. It's got Resilient. And when this support enters the board, or when you activate a loyalty ability, each spell card in your hand gains 2 mana. Then you may tag, so swap your Planeswalker. Now, all of the enhancement cards are spells. So this is further designed to synergize with all of those enhancement cards. Now, this support also has Wizardry. Create up to 2 enhanced gems. So basically, anytime you play a spell or a wizard, you're going to create 2 enhanced gems. And then furthermore, if this support has the Sparks emblem, you're going to copy that spell or wizard and give it half of its mana. And if the support has the Frost emblem, then when you cast that spell or wizard, you're also going to draw a card and give it half of its mana. Now you're going to be getting the Frost and the Sparks emblem attached to this by using Will and Rowan's third abilities respectively. Now, the second ability, Frozen Assets, you're going to draw 3 cards. Then if there are 8 or more enhanced gems, you create 3 gold tokens. If there are not 8 or more enhanced gems, then you're going to go ahead and create 4 enhanced gems. The third ability, Breaking the Ice, is going to create X Art Elemental tokens. Now, if you aren't familiar with what those Art Elemental tokens are, they are 4/4 elementals with prowess. So you're going to create X of those 4/4 tokens, where X is the number of enhancement gems divided by 2 rounded down. If there are 3 or more, if X is 3 or more, then your Twins of Magic token gains the Frost emblem. Now, if you're playing Will and Rowan, Scholar of Frost and Sparks, you're probably going to be playing them with an enhancement gem deck, and therefore you should have X as 3 or more. The flip side, or actually before I get to the flip side, I should go over the mana bonuses. Yeah, that's actually a really big deal with this walker. So for Will, his mana bonuses are going to be +4 to blue, +3 to white, +1 to black, -2 to red, and +2 to green. Now the thing about Will that's kind of odd, and by kind of odd I mean he is the first of his kind that I know of, is that he has a negative mana bonus to red, and that's a color in Will's color identity. So this is our first Planeswalker that has a starting negative mana bonus to one of the colors in its color identity. So that's a little bit odd, but having the +4 to blue is fine. Now, if we switch over to Rowan, Scholar of Sparks, you'll notice that the mana bonuses appear to be the same. This is not the case. This is not intended. The mana bonuses actually swap. So when you swap to Rowan, Rowan's going to get that +4 bonus to red, and then that -2 to blue. So they're going to go from having the blue as, right? So for Will, blue is going to be a positive, and then with Rowan, it's going to be a negative. And then with Rowan, red becomes a positive, while red is a negative for Will. Now, Rowan's 3 abilities are Lighted Up, Charged Mood, and Brilliant Show Off. The first ability, Lighted Up, is going to deal X damage to your opponent's Planeswalker, where X is 3 plus the number of enhanced gems. If you don't control a support named Twins of Magic, you create it. If you're unfamiliar with Twins of Magic, it's that ability, it's that support that Will makes with his first ability. This means that if you do want to swap or tag Will and Rowan for this particular one, you are going to need to make sure that you use your first ability to enable you to start tagging back and forth. The second ability is Charged Mood. Charged Mood is going to make it so that target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn for each spell card in your hand. If there are 8 or more enhanced gems, that creature gains double strike until end of turn. That means that the maximum you can boost a creature is +18/+0 in the event that you happen to have 6 spell cards in your hand. And then if there are 8 or more enhanced gems, then that creature is going to get double strike. So you're going to be adding a minimum of +36 damage to your creature's attack that turn. The third ability, Brilliant Show Off, is going to make you copy the first non-copy spell in your hand up to 5 times. Those copies are going to gain X mana, where X is the number of enhanced gems. If X is 6 or more, your Twins of Magic token gains the Sparks emblem. So, as a reminder, the Sparks emblem is going to make it so that with Wizardry, you're going to draw a card, and then it's going to gain, the Sparks emblem is going to copy the card and then give it half its mana with Wizardry, right? So you play the wizard or a spell, it's going to get copied and get half of its mana. So Will and Rowan are very interesting in that Rowan's first ability is very strong, and Will's third ability is very strong. But one of the biggest standouts for this walker to me is that their mana bonus is changed to have a negative mana bonus in one of the colors in its color identity. So I want to go ahead and give you all an opportunity to see these 2 planeswalkers in action. And then at the end of all of the different gameplay segments that I'm going to showcase, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think about this walker. So let's go ahead and watch that gameplay. So this match wound up being my best match for just displaying both Planeswalkers' abilities. Now, if you want to be able to use both of the Planeswalkers' abilities and not just rely on one, you're probably going to want to be using Whirlwind of Thought in your deck, and you'll notice that I have it in my starting hand here. Now you'll also notice that in that first match, I made a red match, but I didn't actually gain really any mana for it. Same for that one, I just got 1 mana for it. And so you have to be careful when you're making your matches that it's the color that will add to your mana from which side you're using, right? So right now I've got Will out, and so now here I am going to use Will to swap over to Rowan. And so the first ability swaps me over. It's going to get that Twins of Magic token down on the battlefield, and it's going to make it so that red matches are going to be better for me than blue matches. Now, sometimes when you're using this Planeswalker, you're going to want to be making him or her swap based on what gems are on the battlefield. Simply, it's going to make it so you can do more with your hand. And so you'll actually see me do that, I believe, in this match. Now here I've got my Whirlwind of Thought down, which is why I'm gaining so much loyalty, and I'm already at the third ability here for Rowan. Now that third ability is very strong, and so I was just going through it. So it's going to copy the first non-copy spell into your hand up to 5 times. And so I'm going to go ahead and just start throwing things away from my hand so I can copy that Crackle with Power a bunch of times. I probably should have thrown away Velomachus here, but I really kind of wanted to keep it. And so here you'll notice that I'm going to use that third ability. And in using the third ability, I'm going to actually be adding the emblem to my Twins of Magic token from Rowan here. So I'm going to let Rowan swap on over to Will here. And then I'm going to move up my Crackles with Power. You'll see that I have the copies that I just created first in my hand. And so in doing so, I'm going to cast the Flame Painter, but then I hit Teferi for 28, and then you'll see that after hitting Teferi for 28, it actually copies my copy. So if you were wondering if the third ability can copy copies, yes, it can. It can copy copies. So I've got all these Crackle with Powers in my hand, and at this stage, I just figured if I just go ahead and just cast all of the Crackle with Powers, then I'll probably wind up being fine here, because all the Crackle with Powers are just going to be doing enough damage to probably kill Teferi. And if, as an added bonus from casting all these, because Whirlwind of Thought is going to give me loyalty, I'm able to get to Will's third and then have both emblems on my first ability token, then the more the merrier, right? So at this stage, just having all of these Crackle with Powers constantly is pretty darn good, honestly. I mean, it's kind of like a never-ending supply of burn spells. So here I'm just checking how close to my third ability I am with the Breaking the Ice. And so as I'm 5 loyalty away, I can actually get 5 loyalty by taking the loyalty into the red, blue, and black match there. And so that's going to guarantee that I'm going to be able to use Will's third ability this next turn. And I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to be able to enhance as many gems as possible so that I get as many of the tokens as possible. So I will actually go ahead and take the card back from my graveyard. And unfortunately, Teferi gets 5 match, which winds up eating away more of my enhanced gems. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. It was just kind of unfortunate. And so here I can actually go ahead and use Will's third ability. So I'm going to use Breaking the Ice. That's going to get me the Art Elemental tokens, and then that's going to be enough to enable me to kill Teferi this turn. So I've got the prompt again to tag, and so I'm going to tag on over back to Rowan, but it doesn't really matter because Teferi is dead anyway. So this is a really good sample for you to be able to see the third abilities and actually enhancing the emblem by using the third abilities. The only way that I was really able to do this was by using Whirlwind of Thought. Without Whirlwind of Thought or some other loyalty booster, I don't see you really being able to do that reliably. But the Whirlwind of Thought is definitely going to help with that. And so here you'll see that Teferi is definitely dead, and that is a fantastic showcase of Will and Rowan together. So this match is going to be really a highlight of Rowan's first ability and just how strong that ability can be. Now, in a fun turn of events, I did wind up getting paired against another Will and Rowan here, so it was kind of cool to face off against the exact same Planeswalker that I was using for the showcase here. Now, my first priority here is going to be to get Whirlwind of Thought down for the same reason as in the previous game. I wanted to get it down as early as possible. It's just that I can start spamming the loyalty abilities. So the loyalty abilities really don't cost that much at 6 loyalty for the first ability. However, to be able to spam those abilities, you need to have something that's going to enable you to just get a ton of loyalty. Now, here I really want to go ahead and be able to flip Will here. And so I'm actually kind of debating just trying to use the first ability, Chill Down, and I indeed do. Now you'll see that there's nothing on the battlefield for me to target, but I am still able to use the first ability. Unlike with Tamiyo, who you are not able to use the first ability of unless there's a creature down. Now I am going to go ahead and have the Mox make sure that I'm able to get Velomachus down here. And Velomachus is actually a phenomenal pairing for this Will and Rowan Planeswalker because it lets you just start fetching whatever enhanced card from your deck it is that you don't already have. And by doing so, you're going to make it so that you enhance a heck of a lot of gems. And by enhancing a heck of a lot of gems, you're going to be able to burn your opponent for a ton of damage with Rowan's first, or get a bunch of those Art Elemental tokens down with Will's third. Now, I do have a red into 5 white match, and so I'm going to be going ahead and taking that. But you'll see here that just by using Rowan's first ability, I'm already hitting Will for 21 damage. And so in this match, you're really going to see just how much damage I am able to put out. So there's going to be another 22 for Crackle with Power. Crackle with Power is a surprisingly strong card, by the way, guys. So I don't think that it actually works based on how the text says it works. I feel like it works a little bit differently, so I'm still narrowing down how that is. But this is not a video on Crackle with Power. It's about the new Will and Rowan Planeswalker. So here, I'm going to go ahead and wheel my hand a little bit just so that I can try and enhance more gems. And you'll see that there are quite a lot of gems enhanced down on the battlefield, which means that I'm going to be hitting Will pretty hard here with my first ability again, as I have it available. So I go ahead, I burn will for 22 with my first ability. So I've done 21 and now 22. So for this little 6 loyalty ability, I've already burned will for 43 damage. And so will is definitely going to be able to survive this turn, which means that as I've got my first ability available already, I'm going to be able to burn will again next turn. So I am going to go ahead and use my Efreet to bring back 2 more cards with Enhance. I'm hoping that will does not burn away all of my Enhance cards. And so now the Crackle with Powers should be enough, along with my first ability here, to be able to kill will. So there's 23 more. So that's what, a total of 66 damage straight to the face with my first ability, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? I mean, that's a ton of damage. And then I'm going to make the match, and Crackle with Power is going to kill will. So that is a fantastic showcase of Rowan's first ability and just how strong it can be. So this third and final match is going to be a showcase of Will's third ability. And in the event that you're wondering, why is it that you're showing off these Planeswalkers' abilities separately, and why aren't you focusing on their second abilities? The reason for that is that although Rowan's second ability is good, Will's second ability is not particularly great, and just because of how much loyalty it costs to be able to tag back and forth, even when you do have access to a card like Whirlwind of Thought, you're better off just focusing on one of these 2 walkers and either trying to use Will's third ability as much as possible, or Rowan's first ability as much as possible, but not dabbling with the 2 abilities and swapping back and forth. You're not really going to be able to get as much out of the walkers if you're toggling back and forth as much. So you'll notice that there's another trend here between the 3 matches, which is that I have Whirlwind of Thought in my starting hand again, and just to be able to actually showcase the Planeswalker's abilities, I did want to make sure that I had loyalty, and the best way to do that is Whirlwind of Thought. Now, these are Enhance Planeswalkers, and so as they are Enhanced Planeswalkers, gem conversion is not quite as effective. And then also there's that whole thing of if you tag them, their primary mana bonus swaps, so gem conversion isn't going to be effective anyways. Now, in this match, I'm just trying to build up to Will's third ability. As I say, I'm trying to focus on showing you all just how powerful that third ability is for Will. And this actually wound up being the first match that I tried to showcase Will's third ability in, just to go ahead and show you an idea of just how easy it is to make the third ability strong if you have the right cards with Enhance. You'll notice that I'm using the same deck for all 3 of these matches, and that Velomachus just is an absolute rock star with this Planeswalker. So if you picked up Velomachus, you will be able to do a bunch of really crazy things with this Planeswalker. If you have Efreet Flame Painter and you don't have Velomachus, that's fine. If you don't actually have any of the Mythics or Masterpieces, you can still do some pretty good things with this Planeswalker pairing. However, the Mythics and Masterpieces really do help this Planeswalker duo shine because of how much loyalty they need and how many Enhanced Gems they need to be able to do a lot of goodness. Now, I'm using the Kasmina Vanguard here because Kasmina is able to fetch 2 separate cards with Enhance. And so by being able to fetch 2 separate cards with Enhance, it's going to make it so that I can enhance even more gems. And you'll see that pretty much the entire board is enhanced here almost, which is part of the strength of Kasmina. And so at this stage, I'm just trying to cast some spells to give myself loyalty, to boost up to my third ability one more time. I recognize that Professor Onyx really doesn't have very much for the world. It's just getting a 40-40 off the bat for my third ability is pretty deadly. It definitely is going to put something like Kiora's third ability to shame a little bit, just because I'm getting a 40-40 for, I think it's 18 loyalty, which really isn't that bad. So when I say that really isn't that bad, I mean it's actually really good. So at this stage, I just want to be able to try and get to my third ability one more time. I'm checking out what I've got in my hand. And so I'm hoping that by casting this Fractal Summoning and then one more Whirlwind of Thought, that will be enough for me to use my third ability one more time next turn. And it's just enough. So I'm going to use Velomachus to get another card with Enhance, just so that I can try and enhance more gems and get more out of that third ability. So you notice that on my first usage of that third ability, I got a 40-40 out of it, which is pretty phenomenal. And so now with this second use of the ability, I actually am going to get even more than the 40-40 out of it. So I'm going to use the Learn here for another Fractal Summoning to get even more of those little fractal of those enhanced gems down, I'm going to go ahead and use Will's third ability again. So this is my second time using the ability. And so we'll see just how many of those tokens we get this time. We get 52 worth of those tokens. So we got a 92 down just for having enhanced gems. And then that's going to be the end of Professor Onyx. She's not going to take both of these. So, and that's the match. And that's my gameplay. In conclusion, there's a lot that you can do with these two Planeswalkers, and they definitely are quite powerful if you have the right cards. So if you have many of the enhancement cards, then you're going to be able to do a lot with them. If you have Velomachus and the Flame Painter, you're going to be able to do even more. And if you have Whirlwind of Thought, you can do some pretty crazy things with them. Rowan's first ability very well may be the most powerful first ability that we've seen just in terms of raw power for doing just straight damage. It's quite strong. And then Will's third ability is similarly very good to be able to bring out really powerful tokens. There are a number of things that I would have liked to have seen happen a little bit differently for this Planeswalker duo in order to make them go from a novelty Planeswalker duo to a must-have. So the first thing that I would have liked to have seen would be for them to have a static mana gain or a static mana bonus. So if they had, say, +4 to red and blue, and then that +4 stayed regardless of which Planeswalker was active, I think that would make Will and Rowan a lot easier to use for a lot more people. It would also make them a lot less card dependent because having that mana gain fluctuate is kind of tricky to navigate, especially because gem conversion really is the way to go for gaining mana in standard, and enhance already makes it harder to deal with gem conversion because you have to make a swap to get an enhancement. You can't get an enhancement from just any old match or gem converter. And then also, you're also going to want to make sure that with the two mana bonuses changing, you can't really focus as much on just a single mana bonus, right? So you can't just have convert red or just convert blue in your deck, as that's going to sort of go against you for when you're using one or the other, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is more of just like my own personal thing, and you can let me know in the comments if you'd like to see this too on Planeswalkers like this, but I thought it would actually be really cool for these two to be able to have it so that you could toggle which of the Planeswalkers you were going to start with. Because Rowan's first ability is really, really strong. And so I found myself a lot of times using Will just to have his first ability to toggle to Rowan so that I could start spamming Rowans. Or there were other times where I was getting inundated with loyalty, and so I really wanted to be able to use Rowan's first ability and then use Will's third ability so that I could go ahead and add his emblem to my token. And so being able to toggle which of the two Planeswalkers to start with, I think would add a lot more flavor to double-sided Planeswalkers in the future. Now, I do understand with a Planeswalker like, say, Nicole Bolas the Ravager, where there is a requirement to flip the Planeswalker and it just stays flipped. Like, I understand something like that, not being able to toggle one side or the other. You have to actually meet a requirement. But for a Planeswalker like the Scholars of Frost and Sparks, I think it would have been pretty cool to be able to toggle which one you were going to start with. So because of all of this, my general tier placement for these is somewhere in between B and C. They do have quite a lot of power. They pack quite a punch. However, their kit is inherently tied to the enhanced mechanic, which is on the whole a somewhat underwhelming mechanic. I'm going to be making a separate video on enhance. And then also on top of that, just when the enhanced mechanic cycles out from Strixhaven, then there's going to be a lot less that you can do with this Planeswalker pairing. Now, are they worth picking up in spite my ranking? If you're looking for a different experience and an opportunity to play with the enhanced mechanic, maybe you've tried using enhance and you really haven't been able to get much out of it, then yes, these are absolutely worth picking up. I found that they were very refreshing. They were very fun. I really like, personally, Planeswalkers that are made better by a mechanic from a set. So Planeswalkers like this Will and Rowan, Scholars of Frost and Sparks, Planeswalkers like Nico Aris. I have a lot of fun using walkers that enhance or are enhanced by one of the mechanics of a set. However, I often find that those Planeswalkers also are just more of gimmicky walkers that are going to be options for you to have a little bit of a change of pace and to have a little bit of fun. That said, they're not going to replace Rawl as the best blue-red Planeswalker. They're not going to be better than Brokon or Bolas, which are tricolor walkers that have the blue and red, or even the red, white, and blue one. I see her face, Narset. There it is, Narset. So those are my general thoughts. Low battery. Your Mac is going to fall asleep. Yeah, it's pretty tired. So am I, by the way. I've been moving, for those of you that didn't know. And so I'm almost done with the move. I've actually quit my job, and I am going to be a house spouse, a house husband. If you haven't watched the anime Way of the House Husband, super funny, by the way. That's my own personal recommendation for you. So specifically the episode where the dude does yoga. But anyways, that's a tangent. I don't need to go on tangents. So you're going to be seeing a lot more content from me as I finish with the unpacking. But nonetheless, this is my video on Will and Rowan, Scholars of Frost and Sparks. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next one.